So right off the top, a big old tip o' the hat to Darren. He left this comment, and he basically was inquiring, why can't we hook up data from the National Weather Service to our already super cool automated AI weather workflow? Well, why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, only if you could give a damn about getting really good weather reports. Oh, heck yeah! The NWS produces some of the best weather data, and yep, I'm going to show you how to get it into the mix.
We are on the air.
Okay, we've jumped back into our favorite no-code automation tool, Make.com. Here's our lovely AI auto weather one daily report workflow, as you see right here. And if you're wondering, what are all those purple bubbles? I wanted to make this really user-friendly and easy for you to kick into gear if you pick up my templates. So I now have really helpful instructions for each module that, like, let's say you have to get an API key. Well, this tells you where to go to get that key, but not the point of the video. So we're going to be working with this one daily report scenario, but just know it's the same principle for the 3 daily report workflow if you choose to use that one. Okay, are you ready? Here is our brand new and improved scenario. If you look up here, the title, I'm calling it NWS, which means we're now pulling our weather data from the National Weather Service. Oh my goodness, wait till you see the kind of output that you're now going to get out of this scenario. So you know what? We no longer need these 2 tried and true weather modules. They are evaporating into the ether. Now what we're left with is an HTTP module and this tools, because if we were to unlink this, this is really kind of the new assets to our workflow. These 2 modules, what are they doing? Well, HTTP, make a request. All that's doing, yeah, it's kind of in the name. It is knocking on the door of the National Weather Service's website at weather.com and using one of these cool APIs to gain access to weather data. So how do you do this? Well, when you are in your Make.com scenario, you basically are adding a new module, and if you type in HTTP, you see make a request. Within here, it's like, oh my goodness, now gobbledygook time. We have code to enter. This is really easy. Now the URL, this becomes a 2-step process. And maybe it's a 1-stepper, but I wasn't able to crack the code on the easy route for this. So I had to run this scenario twice. And if we pop over to this very handy dandy website, there is more info on how to format this code properly. Currently, we are using a variation on this string. So you see grid points, LOX, a number, and then forecast. And that kind of looks like this. Grid points, office, grid X, grid Y, forecast. So here's what I've learned. LOX is a code for a National Weather Service office near me, basically. This is Los Angeles, and OX stands for Oxnard, which is a city, at least 30, 40 minutes north of me. Now, I haven't found a way to ascertain this specific information without running a separate search first. So that's why when you add this HTTP module, make a request, you're going to enter this string. And it requires you to unearth your latitude and longitude. And let's say for me, I'm just looking for Los Angeles, latitude and longitude. Okay, now it doesn't want this format. It doesn't want north and west. It wants a negative and positive value. So if we take this is latitude, coming back to make, and I will paste it in right here. Method is going to get. Now this is very important for header. We need to add a header value, and that header value is user agent. Okay, so I'm doing a new module here. And it has to be typed out just like this, user-agent. For value, they really don't require anything. So I'm just placing this numeric string. Body type, I'm saying raw. Content type, I'm choosing JSON. Parse request, yes. You don't need to know what any of this nonsense means. Just fill it out like that. Hit save. And I'm going to unlink this. Now what you could do is right-click on this module, run it once, okay? And now, just like that, we have some data. It's already identified our local office as LOX grid X 155 by 45. This is great. Let's expand this out. Now, what you're going to need to do, and I found this is perfect for our weather needs, is copy this URL under forecast. See this long string? Copy that. And just for the heck of it, if you want to see what that data looks like, paste that in your web browser and fire it off. And this is going to be the return. This is called JSON. And we're specifically, when we jump back to make, we want to pull data from this period section. This is an array. And these are the different bundles here. Number. So this is this afternoon. This is tonight. This is Tuesday, which is tomorrow. And this is tomorrow night. So I think we're only concentrating on today, tonight, and really tomorrow for our forecast data. And it's all in here. But it's finding a way to surgically extract just these different areas of data. And I mean, look at these forecasts. I really think the NWS provides a much more detailed forecast than that other weather module. This is great data. I mean, look at tomorrow, patchy fog before 10 a.m., then a chance of rain, mostly cloudy, high near 63, tells you about wind, chance of precipitation is 50%. That's good stuff. So to drive this home, the reason why we enter that data in this module is really only to get this custom forecast URL. At this point, I don't have another way to get it. If you do, good for you. So we're going to copy this URL. We're going to come back over here to the HTTP make a request module that we want to actually use for our workflow. And we're just going to paste this in here. Okay. Everything else is the same. Method is get. In the header, you'll need to create the header. It's user agent, value, any number string that you want. The rest of the settings remain the same. Now, when this runs, it's just going to dump a big bundle of data on you. That's not going to help us when we are kind of tapping the bots on the shoulder to write the script, because they need individual pieces of data to properly construct a weather script. So to do that, once again, I'm just using this messy workspace as an example of what you're going to be typing in to add another module to this HTTP module. Let's do this. I'm going to clone our working HTTP module. Okay, clone it, bring it down here, and then this is kind of what you'll be staring at. So you're going to want to add another module, and you're going to type tools, and then just click on tools, and look at all these glorious tools to choose from. We want set multiple variables, okay? Now, deep breath. Once I click this, I don't want your eyes to roll to the back of your head. We'll get through this. This is just basic data entry. Because this delivers so much data, we need to parse it, and we need to separate the different values before we send these off to the AI scriptwriter. Now that you have the tools module connected, run this HTTP request one more time. And now this will have some real data to pick up on, which is what you want. Today's forecast. So we click in here, and you'll see all the data available to us in that make a request module. We want to scroll down properties, and we're looking for periods. These are periods of time. We want to feed the bots what is called the name, which is the day of the week. So we're going to click name, but here's what's really important. Because as you saw before, it's delivering a lot of bundles. So this is going to be, you see what I did with my cursor? I moved it right between these two brackets. I'm typing the number of 1, okay? And this corresponds to this JSON. You see here, number 1. This is today. It's this afternoon. It's whenever you ping the NWS for weather data. Number 1 is going to be right now, the current conditions. You see down here, number 2, this is like bundle number 2. This is tonight. And I'm finding that every day has a similar format. The name might say today, but then afternoon it changes to this afternoon. So what does this mean over here in make? Well, because this is an array of data, we need to tell it right here, we're only looking for data from this first kind of bundle. And we're going to build a sentence based on mapped data. As we know, name is basically kind of time of day or day of week. So I want to start our sentence off with this. So this could say today. Then I'm going to type in forecast, follow along here, Then I'm clicking detail. Let's make this bigger. Then I'm clicking detailed forecast. And once again, this number has to match the number we entered previously. That's going to be a 1, 2. So this sentence we've just built will say this afternoon forecast, colon, and then whatever that forecast data is from this JSON, which would be this right here. So this looks good. We're not done. Now we want tonight's forecast. So we'll type tonight's forecast. And we're going to build a new string, but just make your life easy. Copy this. Now all you're changing these bundle numbers, 2, 2. This will then say like tonight's forecast. Good. We want one more. This will be tomorrow's forecast. And we're going to copy in this string. If you wanted to go one further, this is important to you, you could even do tomorrow night's forecast. Okay, that's it. Save this. But let's say if you wanted to test this, well, you have to grab the clock and drop it down on this HTTP module. This tells make.com where to begin the run. So let's test this out. Let's run this once and see what we get back. And because I'm all about making your life push button easy, I have updated all these make.com template files. So if you end up picking these up just for one-click import and saving you hours of time, I'm going to now include the National Weather Service module in the scenarios. So now I'll be including 2 extra scenarios, these NWS scenarios, as part of the package. Granted, you're still going to need to get your own custom weather data from NWS by following the steps I just laid out, but at least the models will be in place and some of the coding will already be done. So check out the link in the description if that floats your dinghy, and it definitely will get you on the road to automated weather so much faster. Okay, it looks like we have some data. So this is our naming variable just for our use only, today's forecast. So this says this afternoon forecast. Mostly sunny, that's great. Then tonight forecast, Tuesday forecast, Tuesday night forecast. So this is all great data. So now when we pop in our script writer, let's open up OpenAI. I'm using ChatGPT for this, but like you saw in my other epic video, you could use anything. Using OpenRouter, now you have access to a bunch of freebie AI models. Something else I added, which is really important, since we're now using time and day information from the NWS. You see this? I added this line right here. I said, for reference, today is, and I'll show you, you have to build this string. So when you click in your message window, this box will open up in make.com. You want to click the calendar icon. So you come down here, you click format date, okay? Then you move your cursor right between the parentheses and the semicolon. You click now, and you move your cursor one click over, and 4 capital E's. Boom, boom. So this is basically computer speak for the day of the week. And why we're using that, because when we get to this next user module where we're feeding the weather data, well, you see how the weather data is provided. I mean, it does say tonight, this afternoon, then it will say Tuesday night. And as smart as those bots are, they don't know what day of the week it is unless you tell them. So that's why we're dropping that in. Now, we need to rebuild this section, which is easy. Once again, we click in here and make.com will show us available data. So we're going to just click today's forecast, and I want to skip a line, tonight's forecast, and say tomorrow's forecast. If tomorrow night's forecast is important to you, then you can always add that. But now keep in mind, if you're doing all this, you have to make sure your prompt understands the data that you are giving it. So you may need to come back in here to the master prompt and let it know the kind of data it's going to receive and then what to do with that data. Because maybe you don't want tomorrow night's entire forecast in there, just the temperature. So you need to school the bots on that. We'll save the scenario, and just for the heck of it, let's kick this baby into gear. And here we have our weather report. Let's see how it looks. Mostly sunny this afternoon, reaching up to 72 with a gentle Southwest breeze. Tonight, keep an eye out for patchy fog after 10 p.m. as the clouds roll in, dipping down to 47. See how it mentions by Tuesday night? It says tomorrow, and this is great. So it understands the day of the week data. Now, for some of you, this may be a novel's worth of a weather report, and you don't need all this data. Well, that's where you got to kind of get the machete, go into the prompt, and really pare it down. And then say, only do a detailed forecast for today, but for tonight, just give me the low temperature, and for tomorrow, a very brief overview of the forecast and a high temperature. Because I don't think you need all this narrative. That's just me. Maybe you do. Just know that you have access to it. Since we're only dealing with Fahrenheit right now, I think we can get rid of some of these extra rules because it's best not to overwhelm the bots with irrelevant information. So just added these output guidelines. If the bots follow them, well, that will be seen. So I'm saying spend more time on today's current forecast info denoted in weather data. For tonight's forecast, keep it brief. Mention temperature. No long explanations of weather conditions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's save this and see if it actually makes a difference. We'll run this again. Okay, new output. Let's check this out. Yeah, this is definitely a little shorter. And once again, flirting with a high, adding a bit of flare, that might be a little much. And if you really want to kind of pull the reins in even more, you need to go back in the prompt, kind of crack that whip and even set stricter rules based on your tolerance for this exposition and overly descriptive prose. As night falls. Bum, bum, bum. I mean, come on, that's really silly. I'm just curious, if we walk this temperature back to 0.7, save it. Let's run this again. So I really didn't have to fire a single shot in terms of, adding more descriptive rules. You notice all I did was I went into the temperature variable. You come down here and you click Show Advanced Settings. There is a very useful setting called temperature. It's basically the creative slider, and this is available in all AI models. If you set this to 1.5, woo, stand back. That's going to take some creative liberties. So like I said, this is the creative dimmer switch. The higher this is, the more fun the bots are going to have with the data and maybe stray from the original intent of your prompt. So if you notice that, set this a little lower. You go too low and then it's very robotic and it has zero, personality and conversational flair. So I think 0.7 was a nice balance. And by tapping into the National Weather Service data, I really think your weather reports just become more rich and kind of dynamic with real-time data, and they're more expressive because, you're feeding the bot writer more than just like a 3-word description of tomorrow's forecast, which that other weather module, it would only give you a couple words: broken clouds, sunny. I mean, there's only so much you can do with that limited amount of data. So these detailed forecasts really provide much more depth, and the more ingredients you could give the bots, I think the tastier the outcome will be. Something I was really curious about is time of day and how that affects the data output that the NWS gives you. Because in this first bundle, which we're relying on in our automation, this is number 1, and it refers to current conditions today, this afternoon. But I was wondering, after 6 p.m., does this bundle number 1 become tonight? And then tomorrow's forecasts get pushed down to number 2. I mean, if that was the case, that would kind of throw off a lot of our coding. So right now it's after 6 p.m. and refreshing this, unfortunately, kind of confirms the suspicion. Now, number 1 is tonight. Number 2 is tomorrow. Number 3 is tomorrow night. Why is this important? Well, this kind of throws your data off a little over in make.com because in our set multiple variables module, we're saying today's forecast comes from bundle number 1. Tonight's forecast comes from bundle number 2. Clearly, that's wrong. You need to be very cognizant of when you're running this module. If you're using my 3 daily report scenario, then perhaps the 3rd report you're pulling would be an evening report. And if that's the case, you'll need to account for that. And one possible way you can account for that is just put current forecast. Maybe this becomes future forecast. All the variable values will dynamically be changed based on the time of the day. And future forecast 1, I mean, you're just now pasting these values in to the AI module, knowing that NWS is going to kind of dynamically change these variables based on the time of the day. Sometimes for number 2, this will be tonight. After 6 p.m., module number 2 is tomorrow. And module number 3 would be tomorrow night. Just to be safe, I'm going to click current, future 1, future 2, future 3. There we go. Let's save this. And now it's after 6 p.m., so this request should spit out new data. Let's see what it gives us. Deep breath. We click it, and what do we have here? Tonight, we're under a mostly cloudy sky with a touch of patchy fog rolling in after 10 tonight as the temperature dips to 47. Tomorrow, keep an umbrella handy. There's a 50% chance of rain, and we'll reach a high of 63. Tomorrow night, the rain picks up with lows around 53. That's not bad. I think it did a great job interpreting that weather data. So to boil all this down, this only changes when you run this after 6 p.m. any night. Now, future forecast number 3, you're pulling in weather data 2 days ahead. But due to our prompt, we're keeping it on the rails by instructing it to only talk about current forecast and tomorrow's forecast. And keep in mind, in my deep dive video on the automated AI weather report process, well, I actually have a custom prompt just for evening forecasts. So it gives the bots even more rules to only focus on tonight's conditions and then the forecast for tomorrow during the day. But honestly, I think this did a great job of working with this data within our current parameters. So I definitely urge you to take this for a spin and let me know what you think. For some of you, maybe the hassle of building this workflow isn't worth it, and you're totally happy with the current output you're getting from these weather modules. And that's great, because ultimately, it's your station, it's your sound. And if you dig what you're hearing, then no need to change it. However, if you do want a little more weather pep, then this is definitely the way to go. And there you have it, proof that this old radio dude is always listening to you. Thank you, Darren, for that really astute comment. And if you have something to say, well, please hit me down in the comments. I mean, just think, what would Artie the Aardvark do? And yes, he'd want you to comment. Maybe you've spotted some other inaccuracies. You found ways that I could improve and do things better, just like Darren. I'd love to hear about it. Now, if this helped you at all, if you got at least 6% satisfaction, I'd just be so delighted with a like and a subscribe from you. Thank you so much. Artie thanks you too. Can't forget about him. And until our next little radio rendezvous, you keep rocking those mics all over the world.